Kablam! We're here. It's time for the Illustration Masterclass. Thanks everybody for joining me here on this very fine Friday where I am. The weather is absolutely gorgeous. And as soon as this stream is over, I'm going to take a stroll and enjoy a little bit of sunshine. And I recommend all of you do the same every chance you can. Get outside, get away from these screens. But do stick with us when we do our live stream so you can learn a couple of things and apply them to your own work, okay? I'm just going to give you all kinds of contradictionary. I'm just going to make up words too. It's Friday, guys. Oh, the advice I'm giving you is, it's about opposites, contradictions. So, what are we talking about today? We're talking about storytelling. Now, you meet a lot of people and say, what do you do? Well, I'm a storyteller. Come on, folks. If you really are, then prove it. Prove it to me, okay? If you're going to be an illustrator and you want to punch up that work that you're doing, add a tiny element of story. What do I mean by this? Well, I could draw some dude sitting on a chair. And it could be really beautifully drawn. I say, look at this great drawing I did. Now look, there are a lot of things you could do, right? Composition could be amazing. Maybe the way you use lighting is amazing. In fact, speaking of lighting, that's where you could boost it up a little bit with a bit of story. Because if, for example, you place the face in shadow, we don't know who this person is. All of a sudden it becomes mysterious and there's a question to be asked. Who is that? Now you're leading the viewer into a more interesting place with that illustration. You see what I'm saying? So that's some storytelling action right there. But we're going to take a look at some artists who do it beautifully, okay? And then we'll take a look at some of my work. So first we look at the good stuff, then we look at the so-so stuff. But then what we do is we are going to ask all of you in the chat to throw some ideas at me. And we'll try and do a little bit of an experiment at the end with some sketches to try and make an illustration go somewhere, okay? With a little bit of storytelling juice, all right? Now, let's say hi to some folks in the chat. What's up? Bliss, Wade, hello. Laura, nice to see you. Fergie, hey, back to you. Rob, nice to see you as well. And Stroofy, what's up, Stroofy? Biola is here. Hi, Biola. Christelle, bonjour or bonsoir. I'm not sure where you're watching from. And Becca, nice to see you. Annika is here as well. Folks, if you're watching over on YouTube or Twitter, remember that I'm following the live chat here at be.net/Adobe Live, okay? But why don't we get right to it? So let's check out this old Photoshop window I've got open here. Let's talk a little bit about some artists who have done a great job of not only making a great drawing or a great painting, but also telling us a bit of a little story with that and why that makes it so cool. We'll start with somebody you may be familiar with here. It's our old pal, Norman Rockwell. Let's study this absolutely fantastic painting. Now, setting aside all the reasons it's technically great, okay, so compositionally speaking, and of course, let's look at that figure drawing. Good gracious, phenomenal, okay? Colors and all the other good stuff. So, we know all about that business. But let's look at what we are able to glean from a single illustration in the way of the story that's being told. Take a close look, take a gander over here at our protagonist, our hero of the illustration, right, front and center. And take a look over here at that eye. What do you make of that? So when you first see the illustration, you say, wow, cool, little girl. Shirt's a little messed up there. Oh, look, she's got a black eye. Where is she sitting, right? What happens here? You start to ask questions that you want to answer yourself as you go through it. And you start to do a little detective work, right? And your eyes move over here to some other human subjects. Those always draw the eye, right? And we see them looking out towards the little girl. Look at the facial expressions. Do they look amused? Do they look happy about the situation? I should say not. All right. But look how brilliant this is, the way that Norman Rockwell has framed them in just a sliver of the entire composition so that they are not immediately where you go with your attention. The first place you go is right here. Now, do you see any distractions of any kind surrounding her head? Look at all this business up here, okay? Now, what's happening is this. Let me just draw here on the screen, okay? I'll talk about how fantastic this is. What's happening is, whoops. Look at this shape right here, okay? It is all one single color and value, okay? And then it is interrupted by our focal point. See that? See that? Fantastic. All right. So we just go bam right there, no distractions. We focus in on what's happening. Couple of things to talk about. Look at the facial expression. This is something that you have to work on. If you're drawing human subjects or anthropomorphized animal subjects, what do you want to show us they are feeling? There are multiple ways to do it, but if you have a face to work with, you can communicate a lot with facial expressions. We just talked about that a moment ago with this cat over here and this lady over here, didn't we? We said, oh, let's talk about them. Well, they're telling us a little something with their facial expressions, aren't they? But she's telling us a whole heck of a lot, because this smile is not just a smile. If you had a black eye, under what circumstances would you be feeling good about it? Let's think about that. This is the brilliance of Norman Rockwell, isn't it? She's been in a fight and she feels great about it. So my guess is somebody done her wrong, okay? Somebody insulted her, somebody called her out and called attention to her in a negative way, somebody made fun of her. We don't know. But she went and she got revenge, right? She took care of business. And here is the evidence, right? And boy, she feels so proud of herself. Here she is. Now, of course, we just see PRIN, another great thing. Rockwell's like, look, I'm not going to spell it all out for you. I'll give you a little hint, but that's all you need to know. This is a school setting, principal's office. Here she is, waiting to be seen, right? She's in big trouble, fighting in school, all right? And just to hammer it home, if this weren't all clear, you've got the bulletin board with all the business, right? Look at this little drawing up here, clearly done by an elementary school student, just to really reinforce the setting. These kinds of details are so brilliant, right? And they're really just icing on the cake at this point. You don't need this stuff, but compositionally, what would happen if we took this, right? And we did this. All right, so now how do you feel about this painting? Huge difference, right? The composition matters. That space, when it's dead, just becomes such a big attention getter. You go up there and you go, what's going on over here? Nothing. This is just dead air, okay? And it feels really off balance, especially with the crowding of the figures up here, okay? Everything now in the painting starts to push to the left, right? You even have a line here from the bench and a line here and a line here drawing us to our subject, all right? And then you have these lines taking us up to these subjects, right? This is all intentional. This is all great. But now with that dead space there, we're in big trouble. We don't like that, okay? So check it out. Now, balance. Balance. In fact, look at what a genius this guy is. Do you see this right here? This little cord hanging right here, okay? Notice that is just giving us one little bit of this action, okay? These long verticals. It's just pulling a bit of that over here to balance it out, right? A little bit of counterweight, if you like, okay? But story, story, story. The clothes tell a story. The state of the clothing. Her pose, right? She is not slumped down in the chair. No, sitting up, proud. Look at her facial expression. Look at their facial expressions. So much to glean from this one single illustration. This is masterful storytelling with a single image. I know we all like to see animation these days. You like to see a little animated GIF, like to see somebody animate their drawing. I like that too. Don't get me wrong. But to be able to tell us this much, okay, with these subtleties and with these choices that Monsieur Rockwell has made, you're getting a masterclass right here just from this one painting in how to do it, okay? All right, why don't we take a look at another one? Here you go, another Norman Rockwell painting. I'm going to zoom out just a bit. I want you to see the whole piece first, okay? Now in this situation, what we're dealing with is just a silhouette, right? We've got a silhouette, and let's be clear, it is an interesting silhouette, okay? It's not perfectly symmetrical. That's always an important thing. If you want a silhouette to be more dynamic, right? So we're getting that silhouette to read like so. Okay, see that? Very nice. All right, now, what does that mean? We got a slight diagonal pushing us this way. Why? Because this is where we want to be. And what do we see? Well, how would you describe that that facial expression? He's looking a little bit like, you know, oh boy, I really should learn my lesson, I think. I really should learn. What am I doing? Maybe even a little bit of embarrassment. Face is a little red there. Okay. That could be one way of interpreting it. But look over here. Where is he looking? He's drawing us to something very important. What's going on the arm? We see Sadie and Rosetta, Ming Fu, Mimi, Olga, Sing, can't read the rest, and now Betty. The others are crossed out. Well, this is telling us a fantastic story. This is saying Mr. Sailorman, every time he thinks he's in love, he's fallen in love with a new girl, and then, whoops, that ends, and then he's on to another, and every time he gets a tattoo on his arm of these girlfriends who he thinks this is the forever one. This is the one. It's the old Johnny Depp story with Johnny Depp and Winona Ryder. He had Winona Forever tattooed on his body, and whoops, that relationship didn't last. So this is just so clever. I love it. Of all the ways to tell us this story, the tattoo idea is just marvelous, right? And then the choice of the background, of course. What are we seeing in the background? We're seeing traditional tattoos from the time period, and very much from his area of the armed services, the Navy here. If you look closely, now those are so nicely done because they're pushed back in the space by not being as high contrast. You see what I mean? So that's just a nice added sort of bonus. This is again like in previous illustration, a little icing on the cake, if you will. Okay. Yeah, just wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. It's humorous and makes you smile. The facial expressions, again, that's a key element here. And of course, Rockwell, this is what he's known for. And we're not showing these illustrations to talk about, or I'm not showing you these to say, folks, go out and be Norman Rockwell and that's the way to be. No, this is just to give demonstrations of how you can tell a story. What are the ways that you do it? You can tell it with details, right, that reveal something to the viewer, but maybe not in always such an obvious way. Maybe it's a little bit of a hint rather than a just bang you over the head with a mallet kind of approach to saying, hey everybody, this guy's had a lot of girlfriends and he thought they were going to be his girlfriends forever, but he was wrong, okay? We want to show that in a clever way, in a unique way, in an artistic way. And that's what you're getting from an illustration like this, all right? So This is also interesting in terms of just the compositional choice to have them be silhouetted rather than to have them in a tattoo parlor with all the environmental details that would apply in that situation. So with the previous painting where we see the setting as it is, right? We see the environment, we see the walls, we see the windows, etc. At this time, we just see the silhouette of the two figures, and there's a decorative flat element behind them, which is this pattern comprised of these tattoos. Part of the reason for doing that, in my opinion, is clarity, is getting us to the point a little more quickly and not being distracted by other elements that might sort of clutter up the image, okay, and take away from the punchline, right? So these are other choices that you can make in your own illustrations, when or when not to include a lot of the environment, right, and the details in the background, and whether you want to do that or not is up to whether or not it helps to communicate to the viewer what you want to communicate as clearly as possible. Okay, so there you go. Let's see if we have any comments here or questions. I know I'm talking a lot because I get excited about this stuff. Rob, it's snowing like crazy where you are. Sorry about that. Phew, different from where I am. What's up, Marek? Nice to see you. Alrighty. One of your favorite small parts is the little book on the bench pointing right back at the subject, as in, don't you dare leave this frame. That's from the previous one. Yeah, Wade. Steven says, when I was 11, I was attacked by 3 bullies and by luck managed to shatter the kneecap of one and knock the other 2 down. Steven, that is one of my favorite stories because I've, for my entire life, wished I could have somehow just beaten the stuffing out of the bullies who bugged me when I was young. And there's no way for me to time travel and do that. But even at my current age, I still think about that sometimes and how much I hated those jerks. But can't do anything about it now, I guess. But good on you. Let's see. You talked about Norman Rockwell recently, Elizabeth, in your illustration history class. That's awesome. Yeah, a little bit of character design here too, Wade, with the expression, the red face, and the potentially shallow cranium. That's a good detail there. Nice. Philip, that's some old Hollywood gossip. Well, I'm an old guy, so for me, it's not that old. I remember it like it was yesterday because it was funny and it was in the news and all that. But what are you gonna do? All right, so moving on. Another great example from the master. We're gonna look at Sterling Hundley. So different artist, different generation, clearly. Sterling's probably about my age and coming out of Illustration Academy, doing incredible work, lots of gold medals from the Society of Illustrators. Wonderful guy, a friend of mine, and someone I just greatly admire as an artist, okay? Look at this illustration. Let's take a closer look at this. Now, the setting. Why take this interior and tilt it? Why tilt it? What are we saying here? What does this communicate to you? Look at the wine. The wine is also tilting, right? Do you see that detail, right? This is pretty nice as a really direct way to tell us something about where we are. And if you look out here in the background, you also see something else. What do you see? You see some water, all right? So are we on the water? Are we in a boat? Yes, look at the portholes. Like, most windows don't look like that. So we're getting a detail there with the windows. And then the tilting of it is making you think, hey, the rocking of the waves, right? Unsteady. Fantastic. Now, another thing about Sterling is his camera angle choices. In this situation, we are placed into the art. We are part of the story. It's almost like we're sitting there in the room because we're getting direct eye contact with this figure here. You rarely see that, right? and direct eye contact with her as well. They're really, it's kind of almost a little intimidating for them both looking directly at us, right? What about the position of the figures? This is a huge element of storytelling here because it's telling us something about their relationship. What is he doing? He's carrying her, and they're about to enter a room. So if you all know this tradition and this idea of carrying someone over the threshold, a man carrying a woman over the threshold, right? Entering their home together after being married. We're then able to conclude, look at this, they've just gotten married. Then we pay attention to her hair and we see the flowers. We look at the dress, more clues, right? They've just been married. They're on a boat. So this must be where perhaps at the time the husband lived, right? We have things set out, table for two. We got the wine for celebration. So we can conclude from all of this what has just happened, who the main characters are, where they are, right? And finally, what about time period? The details that we're seeing here are indicating a specific time period, okay? So I'm going to guess mid to late 1800s based on everything I'm seeing here, okay? That would be my guess. Although, right here, if you look at the wallpaper, we're pushing back a little further, right? So could be earlier than that, I don't know. But that's a nice detail as well. So more about giving us all these clues, but not, again, not doing it in such a way that it's a distraction, but doing it in such a way that it elevates the art because of all that information that we're getting. It's giving us a much clearer picture of everything. Now, of course, if you want to talk about all the color choices and all that, well, you know, Sterling is brilliant with that stuff. You know, he knows exactly when to hit something with a bit of color, but a lot of the times the muted colors are just doing so much good work. And the composition, of course, you know, look at these big shapes, right? If you want to really break it down, we're talking, you know, big shape, echo of that big shape, right? Echo of that as well up here. So we're getting a nice triangle right around where we want to focus. This is just fantastic because every time you have the opportunity to create a frame within the boundaries of your drawing, you add depth and you add another element of like drawing within a drawing or frame within a frame. This is an exciting thing to do, right? Big shape here, breaking up the space here. All this stuff. Geometry, geometry, geometry. Excellent division of the space all throughout. Okay? Very nice. So, here's our good pal Sterling. How about Jillian Tamaki, Canadian illustrator and one of my favorites of all time. What do you take away from this editorial illustration? What are we seeing here? What are we seeing here? So, in addition to the fact that it's just a great drawing, which, you know, let's really admire how Jillian draws because the confidence is just marvelous. So confident. Yeah, Anthony, I agree in that first Rockwell one. To leave out the others involved in the fight really is great, reinforcing the possibility that the young girl was the instigator. Yeah, nice. Okay, so looking at this Jillian Tamaki illustration, we have to look at this shape, and then we have to see where it comes from, okay? Ah, right here. It is growing out of her shadow, And when you take a closer look at it, you can even start to make out a human form, okay? So this is what I see, and I could be totally off base. I haven't asked Jillian about this artwork, okay? So I could be wrong, but I read these as arms and hands for sure. See this? Okay. I read those as arms and hands. I read this as a face, and a head and a neck and a face looking directly at her. Okay? Right? Creepy, creepy. But it's coming from her own shadow. So this means what? This is a study in noticing oneself, understanding oneself, maybe wondering about oneself, and not understanding all of the things because of this, the way that this is drawn. To me, it represents something that is always changing, kind of morphing. It's not totally solid. Maybe it's not totally well known. There's a lot going on here, but I do see that sort of human figure there, and I think that this is about, because again, it's coming from her own shadow. It's about having a recognition that you are studying yourself and trying to understand yourself, and recognizing that you maybe don't know yourself. These are some things that I take away from it. What do you all think? Let's see. Shadow monster, says Elizabeth Mock. Yes, indeed. The imagination of a kid could very well be, Strufi. Yep. And Elizabeth says you see a few faces in it. Yeah, I do think there are lots of faces you could get out of this. That could be a head. That could be a head right there. That could be a head. Who knows? An out-of-body experience, perhaps. Self-reflection. Yeah, very nice. And again, in this instance, what do we have? We have absolutely no sense of place whatsoever. But in an illustration where you're focusing on the self, right? The sense of place is irrelevant. I could do that, sitting on a beach, or I could do that sitting on a couch in an apartment building. It doesn't matter. And so that's stripped away, and we get to focus on just this very nice drawing. All right. Simple statement, beautifully done. Here is another Jillian Tamaki drawing, a cover for The Walrus, and this is their summer reading issue. Now, this is what I want to talk about, where you break away from the real. Okay, not that, of course, the previous illustration was doing that metaphorically, but in this case, just drawing things that don't really happen, and making that enough. That can be plenty to communicate to the viewer something a bit more interesting than just this mundane activities, sitting and reading a book. So it could be a person sitting reading a book, but all of this lovely flora and fauna here, okay, gives us that sense of place being the beginning of summer, could be late spring, whatever, this idea of things blooming, right? And butterflies and, little sleeping doe over there, all this beautiful stuff. This is the kind of thing you can do with illustration that just takes it that one step further and makes it more interesting. It's a little bit of surrealism, if you like. Surrealism is great for just pushing an illustration past what we see and experience every day, and taking it to a new dimension where we get to use our imagination a little bit. And there's a lot of delight that comes from that. We love to see things that are unexpected or just a little outside of the ordinary. And that's exactly what you're getting here. And I love it, because if I just were to isolate the figure with the book, this in and of itself it's a nice drawing. It's really nice, right? Very nice. Okay, great. But when you do all this other good stuff, it just instantly becomes fun to look at, fun to explore. I love traveling around and seeing what she's drawn. I like to look around with my eyes and just see all the different kinds of little flowers. Look at the little mushrooms, right? And then compositionally, it's so great how it just kind of like peters out a little bit. We just get a few little smattering of more of the same here and there. Look at the butterflies up here. That's so nice. So nice. Gives me a little something fun to go and check out up there. But really, really, really strong. But the other thing too is this could also represent something that could be happening in the story. I don't know. Could be a story that's taking place in a little forest, right? And so some of that's getting brought into the illustration as if it were real. But I show you this one as an example of a simple way to take an illustration and just elevate it just one step. Bring in something a little surreal, a little unexpected, okay? Just use your imagination and surprise the viewer a little bit. And you can do that, you know? This is one way to go, one way to do it. Chris Buzelli. Let's look at Chris Buzelli right here. Look at this. This is just, I mean, where do you start? Now, you know, I could have just drawn a setting where we have a city on an island, and I'd say good enough. That right there is unexpected and a little bizarre, a little fantastic and fun and whatnot. But to go this step of showing us what's under the water, that's where you go to a whole other place and make it so much more interesting for everybody who gets to enjoy this painting. Because once you know that this is what's happening under the water, then you start to create your own stories about this. Does this city just constantly travel around? It's not like the whale's going to sit still all day, right? Who's this joker? What's he doing fishing here? Get away from there, man. You're about to get run over by an island. There's a mermaid. Got some tiny little whales here. Got this little sea monster, another little narwhal right there, right? This is just such a fun image. And this is where you go completely nuts with imagination and fantasy and all that. And, you know, people love to paint things that are fantastic. We love to paint a dragon. We love to paint a monster or something like that. But can you take that subject and can you twist it in a way we haven't seen before? Add something to the environment that's unexpected, right? You're doing a dragon. Put that dragon in an office and make him, be creating a PowerPoint or something, right? Take our expectations and flip them around, okay? That's what I love about this kind of work. So we're going in a completely different direction now. We're going towards just extreme imagination and really taking all our expectations and flipping them upside down and surprising us and delighting us all at the same time. Chris Buzelli right there. Dadu Shin. Let's go a different way now. Let's go a different way. Check out this one. This is a beauty. Now, what makes this illustration interesting? Well, lots of things. First of all, let's just pause and admire the simplicity of this. The achievement here is really something because in order to suggest an interior space, you need something that makes me understand, what is that? Is it domestic? Is it whatever? So by adding this, just the light hitting the side of this piece of furniture and this vase here or decorative object, that's all we need to do to say, here's the interior. It's probably someone's home, okay, based on the selection of the objects here. But enough of that. I'm going to leave you with that, and that's enough information. All right. What about this framing device, right? So crystal clear that's saying, look at me over here. I'm framing this within the frame, and here's the silhouette I want you to notice. All right. And very important and something that's people just have to be careful about. I want you just to look at this hand. What we are seeing there is the back side view of a hand. And the way we know that is because we know how our hands work and we know how silhouettes are. And if it were the front, we would expect to see the thumb here on the inside. But the artist, Dadu Shin, wants us to understand that this person is looking out, not in. And so that one detail was so carefully rendered and drawn so that we know that we are looking at the back of this person. And they are looking outwards towards what? And here we get something very subtle. It takes a second because the values here are all quite similar to one another and there isn't much information, but when you study it more closely, you see that this is a beach and the water here. All right. So now we can take also some other information and apply it to our understanding. And that information is color choices. Look at this sky, okay? Does this look inviting and happy and warm and welcoming? No. This is a very muted, dark, I would say almost kind of depressing sort of choice of colors here. And so that then gives us another clue as to what we should be taking away from this story about how the person is feeling, because as you know, the weather, when you use this in movies, you do this in stories, etc., you can have the weather be a reflection of a person's mood to amplify that mood. And so here we're getting a nice look at something like that, aren't we? Now, why would somebody stand and look out the door towards the sea? Now, that's the next thing you have to answer, right? So, yeah, waiting for someone to come back who's gone. Maybe thinking about someone who left who's never coming back. Maybe thinking about leaving this place and getting on that water and heading across the ocean. It could be any number of things, right? But all of these things are interesting to ponder. And that is another reason why this is just a great drawing. May seem simple. You think, I could do that. But then when you break it down, you think, well, wait a minute, there's a lot going on here and I should learn from that and then apply it to my work if I can. So think about what's going on here, how nicely that's done. Let's take a look at Jun Cen. The reason I bring this one up is because to me it's very similar kind of an idea, looking out from within. But what I like about this one is, and this is again one of those very, very subtle things, the decision to have the hand on the glass, right? So it's one thing if your hands are both down. In this situation, if both hands are down, you could still get kind of a sense of longing or wishing or whatever. But as we all know from our own experiences, putting your hands on the glass, there's it's a gesture that kind of represents this wishing to be outside of where we are, right? And so that one little decision tells a story, and it's a great choice. I wanted to call attention to that little detail. Look for that kind of stuff and then think about employing it in your own drawings. Notice too here, this hand, same as the hand we saw earlier in Dadu's illustration, right? We don't see that thumb. That's helping us understand the position. In this case, it's obvious because we don't have a silhouette, we have a full color rendering of a person. Another one from Jun Cen is this. And what I like about this one is it takes a minute to get to where you need to go with this story. And I just love when things aren't immediately jumping out at you. So I first saw this illustration, I thought, well, first of all, it's beautiful, right? And I love this distortion and this exaggeration with the foreshortening and all this other business. But folks, look at this. When you see these shapes at first, it's like, oh yeah, like all these other shapes, right? And then suddenly you notice there's a school of fish around this enormous fish right here. Could be a shark, could be a whale, I don't know. And it's clearly heading towards this person. So now you have interaction between two characters. This is another thing you can do. Throw someone else or some other either living thing or special object into an illustration and have it interact with the other character, or suggest that there will be an interaction in the future, and then you start to build a little story around that. So that is pretty neato. Okay? Juncen. That's how you spell this artist's name. Gary Kelley, another one of my all-time favorites. Look at this cat. It's the first place you go. Why? The only green we have in the entire illustration, that pop right there off of that black silhouette of that cat. Perfect, right? And we go, yeah, great, okay, cool. So I see the kitty cat. Well, that in and of itself is a nice illustration, all the geometry and all the distortion and cubism that's being employed, right? But oh my gosh, what's this other set of black shapes? Boots, this This person's dead, right? Or fainted, but why? I think we're going for murder here. This looks like a death situation, right? That's great storytelling. I look at the illustration, I go up here, I go, wow, cool, great, right? Wow, what's going on down here? Okay, just really nicely done, really nicely done. That's another thing too. So we have, again, this is that 2-character thing. 1 character, 2 characters, right? What's going on? Back and forth. Did the cat do something? The cat's missing an eye. Why? Right? I believe this is an Edgar Allan Poe story. Is it called The Black Cat, if I'm not mistaken? Been a long time since I've read some Edgar Allan Poe. Got it on the bookshelf back there. I should pick it back up. Good for Halloween time. But do you see how nicely that story gets told? How about that? All right, moving from the masters to the mister, that's me. I drew this just a couple weeks ago, and I just wanted to show it as a very simple way. You draw a character. You say, I'm going to draw a pig who's a baker. All right, well, great. How do you want to embellish that, Kyle? Well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have an actual cake. I'm going to have him looking at that cake, so we have some back and forth going there. And then compositionally, I'm going to have this diagonal pulling me right across from the spoon, which is obviously used for the baking, so I'm starting to put pieces together. This pig, he did the baking, right? Then I see his face, then I see his eyes directing me back up, and then I see the cake. I say, that's what he just made. He looks excited and proud. And what else? He's not standing still. He's going somewhere with that cake. He's going to serve it to somebody, or is he bringing it out to the bakery store window? What's he doing with that cake? I don't know. But we have momentum, we have movement, so we have someone going somewhere. We have evidence of what he does for a living, okay, well, pig baker. We see that he has done something specific, right? And that's it. And I'm showing you this as an example because it's simple. You don't have to do a lot. I'm not saying you got to do all this heavy lifting in your drawing to make it go somewhere. No, sorry, Bob. You can just do something simple like this, and it's enough. It's enough to get us there, all right? That's enough. Okay. How about this from a live stream last week? And, you know, what I'm going to do is I'm going to call your attention right here. Because I had drawn this knight, and I thought, this is so fun. I was just practicing this technique of using multicolor swatches to create better brush strokes that look more sort of a natural. And while I was doing that, I just was kind of feeling like kind of bored. I was having fun painting the environment, and it's great to have a setting, right? It's great to have a character, but it needed something. And so I decided he's got to look at something, and what is it? Now we have a small story, right? Now we have the footprint in the mud, and it's a dragon's footprint or some other monster. So now we can actually ask a whole bunch of questions. Well, is he going after and chasing the dragon, or was he just going for a stroll in the morning and said, whoops, I see a dragon's footprint, I better turn around and get the heck out of here? It could be anything, but that's all you need. That one little element, right, is all you need, folks, okay? There's nothing more simple than that. All right, so now here's this one I did just a few days ago on Brush Hour. And, you know, we see this person, she's looking out at the ocean, yeah, maybe thinking about this and that, maybe similar to that Jun Cen illustration, I don't know, or Dadu's illustration, Dadu Shin. But you know, guys, I think there's something missing here. So what would you do to fix this? What would you do to make this more interesting? Well, look, it's so easy. Put a little boat out there. That's all you got to do, right? Put a little person hanging out on the beach. We talked about this. 1 person, 2 people. Bam. Right? That's all you need. You wonder, what's their relationship? Put a person here looking out the window or looking up at her, right? Could be anything. Could be anything. Put a dead body right here. This person just lying here. Horrible. Okay. You know, sorry. Death is not funny, but you see my point, right? There's so many things to do to elevate that, right? So many things. So quickly, let's do this. Let's do a sketch. Got a little time left here, okay? Got about 12 minutes. What can we do in 12 minutes? So I'm going to ask you, subject, place, object, mood. Give me a subject. Throw it in the chat. A place, a setting, right? Another object of some kind, okay? Could be any kind of object, or if you like, another subject, okay? Animal, person, whatever, monster. And then, finally, a mood. a mood, okay? And let's see what we can do. So just throw it out there. So subject, colon, write what you want. Place, colon, write what you want. And I'll take these suggestions and we'll see what we can do and maybe throw a little something together. But I hope you guys are getting excited about this for your own work, looking at these little elements that tell a story and how easy it is to add a little something extra to punch it up a level, right? All right, let's see. Cat, whale, dungeon. Subject, cat or whale, possibly. Could be the other one. Object could be yarn, you said. This is expected. I expect to see the yarn. Where are we? Are we somewhere funny, weird, unexpected? I see dungeon. Whale, place, ocean. Ocean. So far we have a dark mood. We have a farmer, could be in there, I see. Cat, dungeon, whale. We have a wishing well for an object. So Elizabeth, you like the whale and cat combination. You like the whale and cat? Okay. Another place could be a roof. So, all right, okay. Cat, roof, dungeon, ocean, yarn, wishing well. The mood was, so far I've only had one. We have dark. Place, speakeasy. The dungeon could be inside of the whale's mouth with the cat playing with a string stuck on its tooth comb. Oh my gosh. All right, let's see what we got here. So, cat, whale, farmer. So I think cat and whale was what people are going for. The mood could be comedic. The cat jumped over the roof. Dungeon, ocean, roof, speakeasy. We have a dungeon, we have an ocean. All right, so let's see here. I'm gonna think for a moment. All right, so here we go. Have some buildings here. And we're gonna have a pool on the roof. Got some lounge chairs here. All right. And we're going to put I'm going to move these lounge chairs actually down here. And here's our whale in the pool. And here's our cat right there. So we're gonna have them having a little conversation right there. Throw another lounge chair in there for that space. And then maybe like here we have a bit of his tail. Popping out. Like that. Some birds, got the sun right there, have a little cityscape. And maybe back out there, we see the water and some little boats and things out there in the distance. Like this. And there's a little funny, weird story that you all came up with, huh? Roof, whale, cat. There's no yarn there. I guess I could put a little ball of yarn right there. I don't know. Right? And there's our friend, the whale. Well, there you go. What do you think about that? You just crawled inside this stream. What time of day is it? Great question. You know, I mean, I just put the sun up there. I mean, if you're in the pool, but it could easily just, you know, they could be doing a little night swimming. It could be nighttime. Whatever you want, right? Up to you. But that was fun. So sometimes, you know, you could do this if you want to. You try it. Make a couple of little prompts for yourself. Subject, place, object, mood, time of day, whatever it is. Throw some stuff together and see where it gets you. I mean, maybe I don't know if this is something I would draw. Yeah, comedic. Yeah, Elizabeth, comedic was a suggestion from somebody earlier. Can't remember. Oh, Stephen Booth said comedic. I guess I didn't write it down. Sorry about that. Yeah. If you want to make it dark, you know, I'm sure there'd be a way to figure that out as well. But there you have it. So that's a fun little exercise, and thanks for indulging me there. Hope you enjoyed that. little sketch. You know, compositionally, we could change it up. You could do all kinds of things. Top-down view. You could do more of a close-up. You could do whatever. We're just trying to have a little establish a place. So we're a rooftop pool. They've got two main characters. There's going to be some interaction there, right? And you know, we hadn't thought through much more than that, but we got a little something out of it. So that is today's illustration masterclass on the topic of storytelling. Remember the simple examples. Remember how all you have to do is sometimes just add another character. Could be off in the distance. Add an object of some kind. Have a character look in a certain direction and wonder what they're looking at, and maybe even show them what they're looking at so that you can put some pieces together. Hint at a mood through lighting or through shadow or through you know, the place. Give us a little clue as to where they are when I say place, you know, and if that helps with the story. Camera angle is huge, and you know, there's just so much you can do, but it can really go a long way to elevate your stuff. So give it a try. All right, folks. Thanks for hanging out with me. Hope you all have a great weekend. And in the meantime, take care of each other, take care of yourselves, and please remember to be kind. And I'll say ciao for now.